Everybody, welcome to a new episode of Sport Talk. I am your host, Evan, and today we have a bit of a different setup for you guys. We are in college now, so a little bit different, but today I'm joined with Brian, who is new here, and an old face, Nick. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It feels a little bit different, but I'm glad to be back.
Yes, it's been a minute since Nick has been on, but we're happy to have him back. And today we are going to be talking about the NFL Week 2. NFL is in full swing now with the second week. And before we do that, make sure to follow us on all of our social medias at Sport Talk Podcast. Like this video and subscribe, and we'll get right into it with the first game, starting with Monday Night Football doubleheader. But first, we'll talk about the Eagles-Vikings game. The Eagles won 24-7. Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal game. 26 for 31, 333 yards and a touchdown with one interception. He looked pretty dominant. And Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, was not as dominant, as he was 27 for 46 with 221 yards, one touchdown, three interceptions. So, Nick, I'll throw it to you. What were your basic observations of last night's game?
So, before the game, I was super intrigued about how this game would go because both teams looked really good in week 1, especially Minnesota, with how they performed against Green Bay. But what shocked me the most was how efficient Jalen Hurts was at almost everything that he did. Bro had 390 total yards, 3 total touchdowns, went 26 of 31 from the field. And the game was never really in doubt from honestly the moment it kicked off, and the Eagles went on that drive to open the game. A very impressive drive. Can't start a game much better than that. Opened it up 7-0, and from then it just looked like they were almost in cruise control from the length of the game. Kirk Cousins obviously did not play well. He is one of the worst good quarterbacks in NFL history. I don't understand. He just can't perform when the lights are brightest, but he'll always finish years with 4,000 to 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, which is very solid stats. But then you look at the games that actually matter in prime time, and 90% of the time he just doesn't perform. I wouldn't panic if I was the Vikings. I think the Eagles are a really good football team. They have a really well-built roster. The only question mark really was Jalen Hurts, and he's answering all those question marks with flying colors so far these 2 years. I think ESPN has him with the third best MVP odds now, behind Allen and Mahomes after 2 weeks, which is just showing how well he's performed these first 2 weeks. And yeah, the Eagles looked really well. They would be the talk of the day if there wasn't another game that happened last night. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you all and see what you all have to say about that.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Jalen Hurts was, like you said, just a monster, and his 2 weeks are deserving of a MVP. It's still super early, but I was impressed with Darius Slay's game. I think he was just living rent-free in Kirk Cousins' head. He had 2 amazing picks, and he had to guard Jefferson the entire game. Yeah, especially right after the week that Jefferson had last week with such an amazing performance. He had a lot on his plate, and he executed it to perfection. He completely locked down Jefferson, had a couple picks, and was really a big reason why the Eagles ended up winning this football game, alongside with the play of Jalen Hurts. But yeah, I think early, but I think the Eagles, they're on the right track for sure. They're really looking scary in the NFC. That's a little bit weaker this year than it has been in past years, and they're looking like the team to beat in that division, and potentially in the NFC as well.
For sure, I agree. I think the Eagles will definitely favorites to win the division. I think they will win that division in the NFC East. I'm not a big fan of Jalen Hurts. I think he's got good talent, but I don't think he'll lead them far in the playoffs. But he could prove me wrong. But he looks good right now. But I don't know. When it comes to playoff time, I don't know if I'm gonna trust Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. And then on the other hand, with the Vikings, I mean, they're just a mediocre team every year. Like, it's nothing new. I don't see them. I mean, I can see them in the playoffs, but I don't. Kirk Cousins is not gonna bring them anywhere. And like, I just want to talk about like Darius Slay. Like, he had like a great game, and like the Eagles roster is good, so I definitely see them as a top team. But as of now, I don't want to put them anywhere near the Super Bowl contention.
Yeah. Back to the Darius Slay thing. It's incredibly impressive because he had a bit of a down year last year, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's past his peak. The Eagles keeping him for that salary is like not a smart move by Howie Roseman at all." But he's balled out these first two games. Amon-Ra St. Brown had an okay game, but him locking down Justin Jefferson was a corner masterclass. I don't think he can play much better than that.
I agree.
Yeah. About the Jalen Hurts thing. I don't think he's a great quarterback either, but he has only gotten better in every single year he's been since I think he started at Alabama. He has only gotten better every single year. I don't really think he had the opportunity to play in the playoffs last year against the Bucs, but top 5 defense. The Eagles were honestly lucky to be there. He didn't play well, but I don't think anyone on that team played well. They went out, got A.J. Brown. The question marks are valid, but I think the Eagles are going to give Hurts an opportunity to answer those questions come January and January, maybe even later. Because like you said, they're the class of that division and maybe the conference.
So something to note is Kirk Cousins, like, we should have expected this. Him in primetime games is just abysmal. I forget what this exact record is, but
I think he's 2-10 in Monday Night Football games.
Yeah, so we should have guessed that Kirk was going to have a bad game, but I thought after the performance that he did last week with him just chucking it to Jefferson.
It looked good last week, and
yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Also, something I found interesting was Dalvin Cook only had 6 carries last night for only 17 yards. Which, for the Vikings to be a really good team, I think he needs to be more involved. Yes, you have...
Had more rushing yards than Dalvin Cook did last night.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, you have Justin Jefferson, who is one of the best receivers in the league, and Kirk Cousins showed week 1 that he can get him the ball, and Jefferson can win them games. But I feel like come deep in, the season when they start playing some better defenses and stuff, I think Dalvin Cook's going to really have to be that difference maker for them, because if they don't have a running game, then they're literally just going to guard the pass the whole time. And
Kirk Cousins beat them.
Exactly, and Kirk Cousins is not going to beat them. He's
consistently.
Yeah, he's. You never know what Kirk Cousins you're going to get week in and week out. So having that running back, which Dalvin Cook's shown that he's one of the best running backs in the league, but it's just interesting to me that his volume wasn't really there last night. I know the Eagles' defensive line kind of dominated the line of scrimmage, but only 6 carries throughout the whole game seems very low in my opinion.
You can't feed a star running back the ball 6 times, no matter how much you're down by. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what team you are. You got to give your arguably star man on that offense more than 6 touches. Yeah. I didn't even notice that till you just said it, but yeah, that should be talked about more than it currently is.
I know that because I haven't fantasy this year.
That would make sense.
No, they definitely need to get more involved, especially if you want to win football games. You need the running game. So I agree with you guys.
Moving on to the next Monday Night Football game, which, like Nick said earlier, was the headline of the night. The Buffalo Bills absolutely demolished the Tennessee Titans 41-7. The Bills, I've said this before, they're the most complete team in the NFL right now, in my opinion.
Totally.
Offensively, defensively, they look like the real deal. They look scary. They're undoubtedly Super Bowl favorites, in my opinion. They look like the team to beat in the AFC, and I think they're just going to have a tremendous season behind. I mean, really, Stephon Diggs, man, what else can you say? 148, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that duo between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs is looking really, really, really nice, and I just think they're poised to make a run this year for sure.
I totally agree. I do believe the Bills should be a Super Bowl favorites right now. They have the complete team. I mean, even their defense, adding Von Miller is that's scary if you got to go against that defense. And then like the offense, Josh Allen, the way he's improved since like his rookie year, it's just like he just keeps getting better. And like especially with his running ability, like no one wants to tackle him. Like he's a big dude. They just and then Stephon Diggs, like you can't like people try to guard him, but like no one can guard him. And then I agree with everything Evan said. And like on the other hand, the Titans, I think it's if you're a Titans fan, I would be worried right now because I mean I love Malik Willis, but like Ryan Tannehill and like the roster isn't as good as it was in the past couple of years. I think it's gonna be a complete down year for the Titans, and I think like if they already are, I think they're gonna go on like heavy rebuild because it's not looking too well for them.
I think this game showed two franchises going in opposite directions. The Titans, here's the thing, right? It was 31-7 with 4 minutes left in the third. The Bills and Titans didn't do anything in the fourth quarter. The Bills could have put up 60 if they really wanted to, right? And this Titans team went 12-5 last year and won the division. Granted, in a weaker AFC South, but they still went 12-5. That's not a slouch of a team. I mean, you all hit everything. Josh Allen is looking more and more like a transcendent. He already was a transcendent talent at the quarterback position, but like you said, the way he's developed over the past 4 years has been unbelievable. Stephon Diggs, like you all said, is becoming a top 5 receiver in the league. If he wasn't already, he's kind of cemented that place. I mean, 12 catches, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Like, it's insane. Like, I don't know how many, and he had didn't he have 2 touchdowns last week against the Rams?
I think so. Yeah.
Or no, it was 8 for 122 and 1 touchdown. But still, yeah, it's the Rams defense. Like they are absolutely just torching everyone they played. I was a bit hesitant to crown the Bills as Super Bowl favorites just because I didn't think they had really no running game last year. Like Josh Allen was their running game. I didn't know how Tre'Davious White would come back from his injury. I didn't know how Von Miller would fit in that system. But I mean, everything is like looking just spot on for that entire Bills team. If they don't win a Super Bowl in this window they have now, I don't know when they ever will. Like there's not much more to say about that. They were firing on all cylinders all game long.
The next game that we're going to talk about is the Packers-Bears game. The Packers ended up winning 27-10. And really, Aaron Rodgers just showed again why he dominates the Bears for as long as he's played. Aaron Jones had a good day with 15 carries, 132 yards, and 1 touchdown. And actually also had a receiving touchdown as well. But this game wasn't, I didn't really watch a lot of it, if I'm being honest. It wasn't like super exciting. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I want to go to the Bears stat line. I just want and I'll shout out to my friend Ryan Gaff. If you've ever watched this, he thinks the Bears are going to be 9-8. I think they're going to be terrible. I mean, Justin Fields only attempted 11 passes. I don't know how you attempt 11 passes in a game unless you're playing, like, the team is just that bad. I mean, and only 70 yards in a pick. Like, I think that is, like, a terrible stat line. I mean, David Montgomery had 122 rushing yards, but it doesn't mean anything. But typical Packers beating the Aaron Rodgers beating the Bears. I mean, we all saw it coming. And, like, the Packers, I think, because they have Aaron Rodgers to be a good team, but I'm worried for their receiving core. I mean, I'm a believer in Allen Lazard, but right now, like, there's no true wide receiver 1 for the Packers. So I'm just afraid when, like, games get close. Like, I don't know who Aaron Rodgers is going to throw that ball to. But, I mean, they have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and, like, a 2 running back. I think that is, like, what will make them good and could potentially make a playoff run is because if they can get that run game going with both of them, that could be unstoppable. But, that's what my takeaway was.
Yeah, for sure. The thing with this game, I watched more of this game once after the third quarter. I was just like following along on my phone. I was doing like stuff for school. I was watching it. Everyone's going to complain about the Justin Fields at the 1 yard line. I don't think it would have changed that much as far as the outcome of the game. I mean, both running backs looked good. Like David Montgomery, 15 carries, 122 yards, 8 yards a carry. Obviously, Aaron Jones, about 8-9 yards a carry, 2 total touchdowns, like 170 yards from scrimmage. The thing with the Packers is like Aaron Rodgers, like 234 yards on 19 to 25. Like he played well, he played efficient. He did what Aaron Rodgers does, and that's own the Chicago Bears. But a lot of the yards really came on chunk plays. Like 50 came from Sammy Watkins, another 20 came on a few other receptions. Aaron Jones kind of made things happen. And like you said, I don't know who Rodgers is going to throw to once it comes to crunch time. Like when the games really matter and games they have to win, because they're going to have some games later in the year where one of these receivers is going to have to make a play, whether it be Sammy Watkins, like you said, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, whoever. And I just don't know if I trust any of these receivers to do that. And it's kind of a shame because I feel like this is one of the more complete rosters Aaron Rodgers has had in his career. Like he's got running game support. His O-line is good. His defense is solid, right? Is it Matt LaFleur? Matt LaFleur's head coach. For some reason, I thought Matt LaFleur was Tennessee's head coach. I don't know. But Matt LaFleur is a good head coach. Like the front office has given him almost everything to succeed. And it's just going to be a matter of whether these receivers can make plays when they need to come down in the year. Like you said about the Bears, I'm ready to say that I don't think Justin Fields is good. I don't think he's an NFL starting quarterback, which pains me to say as an Ohio State fan. I just don't think he's that good. The talent is there, right? It's very evident that the talent is there, but he just doesn't have any support from the front office to all the skill position players apart from David Montgomery. And the head coach is not really an offensive-minded head coach. I mean, he had to deal with Matt Nagy for his first year of development. I just don't think like the Bears, they beat the Niners in a monsoon last week. I didn't overreact to that game. I still don't think the Bears were a good football team. I think that they're not going to, I think the over under was 6 wins on them this year, roughly. They're not going to hit 6 wins. But yeah, I still don't know if the Packers are going to rebound and win the division. I still think there's a lot of question marks with that team. But yeah, I mean, honestly, one other thing, the NFL needs to stop giving Packers Bears on primetime because it's just a blowout for the Packers. Yeah. Almost every time. They won't because it's a historic rivalry, but like, yeah, it's almost poetic at this point, if we're being honest.
Yeah. For me personally, I'm not ready to give up on Justin Fields just yet because last season I kind of discredit that just because of Matt Nagy and them being bad. But I do think the only reason that Justin Fields will not succeed in the NFL is because of just the Bears organization as a whole. Like you said, he has the talent. He just has nothing around him. He has a terrible offensive line. The receivers have been nothing special. His running back, like you said, has been good, but
good, not great.
Yeah, like I like you said, Fields has the talent. I just feel like he hasn't put it together yet, which is still early in his career, obviously. But it all is a huge disservice to him that he really doesn't have much of a supporting cast behind him.
He got put in the worst situation he possibly could have.
Yeah,
like I don't think anyone's denying that.
Yeah. And then on the Packers side of things, I think this whole season is just going to show how good Davante Adams is because of how bad their receiving core is going to be throughout this entire year. Because, like you said, they have plenty of dudes but none of them are great. None of them are like even good. And so it's just Aaron Rodgers just being Aaron Rodgers. But it's really obvious to tell like how much of an impact that Davante Adams had on this team. Because like you said, they have good running backs, decent defense, good O-line. Like they have the pieces, but they're just missing that go-to guy in late games like both of you were talking about. And that was Davante Adams. And I feel like this entire season they're going to be searching for that guy, and they may or may not find that.
See if one of them can step up, but like there's going to be question marks surrounding that throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
Until they prove otherwise. And that's going to be kind of the storyline with the Packers this year.
Yeah, for sure. Shall we move on to the next game, which I don't really want to talk about?
Well, I'd love to talk about this.
Cowboys-Bengals. The Dallas Cowboys beat the Bengals 20-17. I'll get my rant out of the way here quick. Um, should not have lost this game. Should not have lost week 1 game. Did we deserve to lose? Absolutely. Um, Here are my issues. Obviously, the offensive line has not been playing well. Am I freaking out? Not yet, because we have all new offensive guys, all new offensive line except one. We have a rookie at left guard, left or right guard, and then we have 3 new guys. They still have not gelled yet, obviously. And it's going to take some time, which they might not have, but the biggest thing from the O-line from this game was I felt like our tackles played awful. Lael Collins, it was his first game back in Dallas. It looked like he was nervous. He was uncharacteristically getting beaten off the line, and like obviously he was going up against Micah Parsons, which is hard for any tackle to go against, but there were multiple times where he would just look silly out there because he couldn't keep up with Parsons. And then on the other side, Jonah Williams, who was the Bengals' only returning guy who everyone like has had faith in, he was awful as well. He's been really bad these first 2 games. But we can't blame all of it on the offensive line. Some of it is on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I feel I don't know what it is, but something at these first 2 games has not seemed right. I don't know if it's because he missed training camp or what, but something feels off with him. Like he's not looking downfield as much. His eyes aren't where they should be, and he's holding the ball a little bit too long in some possessions. But it's a mixture really of the line, the coaching, and the quarterback play. I'm not giving up on Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is a phenomenal quarterback. I think he'll be fine, but these last 2 games has not looked well. But on the coaching side of things, I feel like they're coaching scared, because I have not seen. Last year, the Bengals' staple was deep balls, getting Jamar Chase open downfield, getting T. Higgins open downfield. I feel like they've been playing really conservative since the Super Bowl. Like, there's multiple times, 3rd and long, they just throw the check down. They don't even try to go for the big play to like potentially get the first. So I feel like there's a lot to blame here. Am I freaking out? No. Are we going to win the Super Bowl? No. Are we going to make the playoffs? Maybe. So I think it's too early to count the Bengals out, but they're definitely off to the worst start that they could possibly have.
I mean, yeah. Here's the thing with the Bengals, right? Like you said, something just seems off. I don't know what it is. It might have been Joe Burrow missing a bunch of training camp with his appendicitis that he was going through. But something just seems off. There's no denying that the offensive line played terrible. Okay, they're awful. And here's the thing with that. Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times in the first 2 games. 13 times.
What's that?
These 13 times. Was it 7 last week, 6 this week? I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
Last week,
like over 100.
I could excuse it because they were playing one of the best front 7s in the league. Yeah. Right? You got TJ Watt on one end, Cam Hayward on another, Miles Jack in the linebacking core. I mean, the Steelers' defensive line is the strength of their team. This week, it's a little bit harder. I get Micah Parsons is a stud, right? I get he's going to be the face of that defense for a decade plus. But it is respectfully only Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can double him if you need to, I get he's got like fantastic moves, but still 2 guards should be able to block one on most plays. And here's the thing. He got sacked like 7 or 8 times in this game, 6 or 7 times. And the Bengals still had a chance to win. Like, they had the ball with 2 minutes left. They just went on a 6-minute drive to tie the game up. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, right? Bengals were finally looking like the Bengals of old, right? The Dallas defense is gassed. They were just out on the field for forever. And the offense just had 3 and out. And Zach Taylor did not dial up a play that went longer than 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. You punt the ball away to Cooper Rush, and you let Cooper Rush drive a game-winning field goal drive on that defense. Like, I don't know what else there is to say. And also, it's not just the pass protection on the O-line. They didn't get a running game going either. Joe Mixon, 19 carries, 57 yards, 3 yards a carry. Like the offensive line is obviously the weakness of that team. And you thought it would be fixed, but it doesn't look that way. I do agree that they need some time to gel. I'm also not panicking on the Bengals because they lost both games by a field goal.
Yeah.
Game-winning field goal as time expired, right? A few bounces of the ball go their way, and they're 2-0, and we're not having this conversation.
Exactly.
Right? They're looking like, oh, the Bengals they're gonna be one of the class of the AFC, right? But there is legitimate concern. Like you said, I think their coaching scared. I think really since the second half of the Super Bowl, after they had that long touchdown that should have been called back but wasn't. They just got kind of complacent.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, our stars will close the game out. And the Rams answered with their stars. And then they've just been playing kind of scared. Joe Burrow, when he had time, did not play bad, but he also didn't play great. And that's kind of concerning to me, at least. I get he wasn't in most training camp. It's obviously a long season. The Bengals are going to have time. They play the Jets next week in New York. If they lose that game, there needs to be legitimate concern in Cincinnati.
This is the Jets. That's panic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my Cooper Rush didn't not look bad.
Yeah, but I don't think, in my opinion, I didn't think Cooper Rush looked great either. Like I feel like he did. People were acting like he had some Mike White type performance against us. Like I feel like he just got the job done. Like he didn't do anything crazy.
The Cowboys roster is good enough.
Yeah,
you didn't have to play good, but they had the talent. And I mean, I don't. If like Cowboys fans think like Cooper Rush is gonna lead them to the playoffs, it's not gonna happen. I don't think Cooper Rush is anything special. I don't see him like winning a lot of games. But I mean, they have the roster, so like they can beat the bad teams. But I don't see them beating any good teams.
Yeah. One thing I noticed early into the game was I felt like our defense just never got off the bus. Like our secondary was getting destroyed by Noah Brown. Like that.
Noah Brown at 8.
Yeah, that concerned me. Like Jesse Bates got destroyed. Like Awuzie. Like some of our best defensive guys were just. I don't know if it was the play calling or lack of effort or what it was, but I just felt like their receivers were always open, and that we would have guys in the area, but nobody guarding the receivers. And then,
I don't think you can blame this game on the defense, though.
No, definitely not. Yeah, no, definitely not.
They got blasted the first quarter, but the last
Yeah.
3 quarters they did their job.
No, I agree.
Just the play calling and the play on the offense was not up to standard.
Yeah,
frankly,
I agree.
for that team.
I agree. Which begs the question, like, I feel there's always been this kind of floating around, like, about Zach Taylor's, like, job security. I don't think they should think about firing him as of right now. I think just came off a Super Bowl run, like you said, they only lost by 3 points. But I do feel like if the season progresses and the Bengals are looking significantly worse, I think it wouldn't be the worst idea to explore your options. Because if you look at the potential head coaches that could be on the market, Dan Quinn, Eric Bieniemy, Kellen Moore, like guys like that who could maybe step in and do better. I couldn't tell you right now, but I think Zach Taylor's job is not like set in stone anymore. Like I feel like it's still kind of in question.
I don't agree with that. Me personally, I feel like the Bengals, off like what happens to a lot of teams is like a Super Bowl high, whatever you want to call it. After they lose the Super Bowl, teams tend to have like a regress year, and so I wouldn't panic about the Bengals. And like, yeah, the O-line's all new, so I'd still give them time. And like Zach Taylor, I think he's a good coach. I mean, he just led them to the Super Bowl, and like one bad year, I don't think should define his like job. I think like you got to give him at least like another year to like a couple. But like if they have one bad year, I don't think I would like find a new head coach. I think I'm gonna roll with him. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to push him out of town or anything, but I feel like if anyone is to, like, blame on this team, like, come the end of the season, it always goes back to the head coach, so.
For sure. Here's the thing with that. I don't think they should fire Zach Taylor after this year, no matter what happens. Like, he just led them to a Super Bowl. But I've been very open about two things. One, the Bengals Super Bowl run was more about other teams shooting themselves in the foot, more so than the play of the Bengals. And two, I think Zach Taylor is a good leader, not a good head coach. I think he can galvanize a team to do, like, overachieve and perform beyond their limits and go places that they never thought possible. But as far as play calling, and because Zach Taylor calls the plays, right now?
I believe so.
I think he calls the plays. As far as being a play caller, and as far as organizing how he wants an offense to run, especially now that teams have film on them, I don't think he's as good as he was made out to be last year. We will see. Like you said, I wouldn't panic on the Bengals yet. Here's another thing. Say that the offensive line doesn't gel this year. They're still as bad, if not worse, than they were last year. Where do you go?
Yeah.
They just spent $70 million to fix it. I don't think they have the cap room to do it again.
No.
They're not going to fire the head coach. The quarterback and the weapons aren't the issue. You saw that last year.
Yeah.
And the defense has shown in both games this year that they're still a decent unit, decent to formidable unit on all parts of the field. So they're going to be put in a tough spot if they don't gel. They have time, like they play the Jets next week, and then I think they have Miami on Thursday night in 2 weeks. That's going to be a really good game.
Yeah,
that's going to be a really good game. So yeah, they have time. But again, if they don't beat the Jets next week, I think there has to be serious questions asked about the stability of that team.
I agree.
As far as this year goes, I don't know about long term, but as far as this year and the expectations for this year, they gotta address that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, their schedule is only going to get harder, which sucks for them, because, like, towards the end of the year they play some, like, Bills, Ravens, like, they play some Chiefs, yeah, so they play some, like, big time teams. Yeah, so getting to a slow start doesn't help them at all. But I think you hinted to this a little bit. I think one of the things that is hurting them as well is teams are starting to figure them out. Like, I feel like, they talk about, like, sophomore slump, like Jamar Chase is a sophomore, Burrow's kind of a sophomore, because, I mean,
They have a full year of film on.
Yeah, they have a year of film, so I feel like teams are kind of starting, okay, like, they're going to try to throw it deep, like, we're going to take that away from them. And so I think it's just going to be on Burrow and the coaching staff to kind of continue doing what they're good at, but also tweaking the game plan enough to add variety that exactly, yeah. But I'm not overreacting yet. But like you said, if they lose next week, it might be panic time. Might be panic time. The next game that we're going to cover is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco won 27-7. And the biggest news out of this game was Trey Lance, unfortunately, going out with a brutal ankle injury that will keep him out all season. And then Jimmy G coming back and leading this team to a win. I just feel bad for Trey Lance, man.
Prayers up to Trey Lance. I agree.
Like, he was big, like, the 49ers put all their trust into him, and people were looking at him as, like, a potential breakout guy. First NFL game, first full, like, starting NFL game, the worst weather possible. Yeah. Plays a bad game. Second game, plays the first quarter, snaps his ankle.
Well,
yeah.
First quarter. He's playing decent.
Yeah. Then hurts his ankle, gets carted off, and is out for the rest of the year. It's just really unfortunate to see. And, yeah, it's just a tough one. But, I mean, I guess the 49ers are happy they kept Jimmy G around because they'd be screwed without him.
Wolf looks like a genius now. I was surprised that they re-signed him, but it's looking like it worked out. What I want to talk about is the 49ers. I I love Jimmy G. I think I'm a believer in Jimmy G. I know he's not like the greatest quarterback, doesn't have the talent, and but I think he gets the job done and he wins. So I think this is actually good for the 49ers with they have a great roster still. And I do believe Jimmy G can make a run to the playoffs and even potential Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Do I think it's gonna happen as a favorite? No, but I do think the 49ers will be a top team this year under Jimmy G. Which I want to ask say they were to make a big run as with Jimmy G and say they make it to the Super Bowl, which he brought them to the NFC Championship last 2 to 3 years. I don't know what it was. So he can do it. Say he gets over the hump and goes to the Super Bowl. If he wins, lose. Do you guys believe do they not re-sign him next year and give up on Trey Lance, or will they give Jimmy G another shot next year?
I mean, if it happens again, you know what you're getting, right? The definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, knowing the results. It'll show a lot about the ambition of the current 49ers front office. If they keep Jimmy G, say they go to the divisional round or the NFC Championship game again, or even further. If they keep him, they don't win the Super Bowl, keep him again. It'll show a lot about what the Niners front office wants to accomplish. And yeah, that's about it. The 49ers, I think you know what you're getting with Jimmy G. I think that they went to the Super Bowl because I believe that was Jimmy G's first full year in that system. And Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius, right? And they could have won that game had Jimmy G not overthrown. I can't think of the receiver's name off the top of my head with about 3 minutes left against Kansas City. They blew a 20-10 lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think the Niners, it is best case scenario to have Jimmy G as your backup quarterback. He's proven to be an NFL capable starter. He knows the system. He knows what he's getting. You know what you're getting, quite frankly, as a 49er fan with Jimmy G at the helm. I think he is, regardless of all the praise I just gave him, I think he is incredibly limited at the quarterback position. I think he's shown it in New England and through his time in San Francisco and elsewhere. But you could definitely do worse. And I think the 49ers roster is built to the point where they can support Jimmy G's flaws and still be a successful football team. And then you go to the Seahawks. Last week, I think last week was more about Denver than Seattle. I still don't think Seattle's a good football team. Even though Geno Smith played well, they won by 1, and it was honestly more so due to Denver than Seattle. And their only points came off a blocked field goal. The offense couldn't do anything all game on running the ball, passing the ball. And like you said, the Niners last week was in a monsoon. Don't overreact with them. I think the Niners have a higher floor but a lower ceiling now that Trey Lance is out. And again, it sucks for Trey Lance because he was kind of given the keys to the franchise this year. And he never really got a chance to prove it.
Yeah.
He's expected to make a full recovery. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, he had a successful surgery.
Successful surgery. Yep. Out for the rest of the year, unfortunately. It looks like he's going to make a full recovery, but we don't know if he's going to be the same.
Yeah.
And I was a big believer in Trey Lance. I thought he had the best situation possible for a quarterback, him that is as raw as him coming out of college. He got ample time to develop behind a quarterback that knows what he's doing, and a coach that knows what he's doing, and an organization as a whole that has a decent idea of how to run a football organization. And they gave him a shot, and he never really got a chance to take it, which it's incredible. It's very sad. But like they said, he's expected to make a full recovery. We'll see. We'll be talking about the same thing next year. The same storyline with the Niners this time next year. But yeah, if you're a Niners fan, I still think you can go far with Jimmy G, but
Yeah, like you said, they have a higher floor but a lower ceiling. I think that was put well. I think that sums it up pretty perfectly. So the Broncos, like Nick just mentioned earlier, they lost week 1 to the Seahawks in Russ's homecoming, and they barely edged out the Texans 16-9. Are you guys getting worried about the Broncos? I mean, they were the talk of the town this offseason because Russell Wilson was obviously traded there, and he hasn't looked great, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, it's probably still getting used to the system and everything. But honestly, like, the coaching's been bad too. Like, Nathaniel Hackett has not been like what he was kind of talked up to be as a head coach, at least these first 2 games. He's made a lot of like questionable decisions, and to lose to the Seahawks and barely beat the Texans, who were both bottom feeder teams, I think that's a little bit worrisome for Broncos fans.
Yeah, I agree. For sure. I would be a little worried as a Broncos fan. I mean, with the stacked division, that's what scares me the most. I think they'll be the team in that division that won't make the playoffs. I feel like Russell Wilson is kind of like towards his end of his career, where like he's still like he's a good quarterback, but like the past years in the Seahawks, like he like starts off good and then like just ends up playing mediocre. And like I mean, he's playing decent right now, but I don't know. I mean, they have a decent roster. Like they got a running back, they got like receiving core, but I just think they'll be like mediocre. But like all the talk at the beginning of the year of them being like Super Bowl contenders, especially with the AFC that's already like stacked. The Broncos are like maybe will slip into the playoffs.
Yeah. If I'm a Broncos fan, I was not that concerned last week. I wouldn't be concerned if I was a Broncos fan last week. I think Russell Wilson played well, 340 yards, a touchdown, 29-42. It was more so about the Broncos play calling than the play of Russell Wilson. This week was one of the shocks of the week. I did not expect the Broncos to look like that at all. They just couldn't get anything going. Russell Wilson looked terrible. They couldn't really get a running game going for the most part. And the Texans defense, the Texans defense might just be really good. We don't know. I don't think that's the case, but like they might be super good. But their offense looked just bad. And like you said, they barely squeaked out a win against the Texans. It was 9-9 with about like 7 or 8 minutes left. And yeah, in the AFC, I'm still a believer in Russell Wilson. I've always been a believer in Russell Wilson. I've seen what he can do. But like you said, in the AFC, they have a lot less time than usual to figure it out. Nathaniel Hackett does not look like he knows. I'm not going to say he doesn't look like he does. He looks like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's made a few questionable decisions in his first couple weeks against subpar opposition, respectfully. And when they start playing these better teams, we don't know how they're gonna fare. They might fare really well. We'll see. But Russell Wilson did not play well. The running game couldn't really get anything going. It was really the defense that held Davis Mills and company at bay for the entire game. But yeah, they've got to figure it out semi-quickly before they start playing these top-tier teams that they're going to play with the division that they're in.
One last thing about the Broncos. Shout out to Lucas. Earlier in the season, or earlier before the season started, he said that the Broncos were going to be the team that everybody was hyping up, but they were going to be disappointing and not make the playoffs. And as of right now, that take is looking pretty good. And
was that Lucas or Weaver?
That was Lucas.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, he was pretty adamant about it. And as of right now, it's looking pretty good. So shout out Lucas. Good take on that one.
Take.
All right, so the next game was the Cardinals versus the Raiders. That one was an overtime thriller. Mm-hmm. I didn't start like watching till like the fourth quarter, but Kyler Murray, Kyler Magic, man, he got the job done when he needed to. Created a lot of plays with his legs, his scramble ability. Like, that's the Kyler that I want to see week in, week out. I want to see that explosiveness, that, like, game-changing ability that he has in the pocket and scrambling around with his legs that can, like, win football games. And against a good Raiders team that played well, they didn't, like, really play that bad. I mean, Derek Carr played a clean game. Devontae Adams did his thing. Like, and the Raiders defense isn't, like, too shabby either. Like, they've got some pieces there now, and Kyler Murray just clutched up at the end and just showed everybody that, like, he's still the real deal.
Is this a true stat line Devontae Adams had 2 catches for 12 yards, but he had a touchdown.
Yeah, he had like a little slant and then not much else. But I mean, he had a nice touchdown. But I think that the big takeaway was just Kyler Murray's fourth quarter overtime.
I mean,
heroics.
I was watching the end, and I would be mad if I was a Raiders fan. I don't know if you guys saw that. I think it was 4th down. They called holding on the Raiders. Did you see that?
Where they didn't call holding on him, right?
No, they called holding to extend the game.
Wasn't it on the Cardinals like game time drive?
Yeah, it was a game time drive to go into overtime. I think it was 4th down, and like I knew that's what the refs do every game. They like to extend the game. I mean, it was a terrible call. I mean, he didn't even hold him, and like I don't know. I would be mad if I was the Raiders fans because I think they got stumped from this game. I think the game should have been over from there, and like Kyler shouldn't have got a second chance. But like props to Kyler that he did his thing, that they gave him another chance, and he executed pretty well. And then in the overtime, what a way to end it on Isaiah Simmons' hit stick. That was like one of the coolest ways to end off a game, to win in overtime on a walk-off fumble recovery. I mean, it was an absolute like great hit on Isaiah Simmons. Something I love Hunter Renfrow. It wasn't really his fault. He kind of just got like hit pretty hard. So like it was just a tough way to go for the Raiders, but props to the Cardinals.
This game was a Kyler Murray masterclass. And as someone that I was watching Red Zone basically the entire day on Sunday, first half, the Cardinals looked terrible once again. And I was starting to think, like, how good are the Cardinals really this year? And then Kyler Murray, it was 20-0 at the half. 20-0 and 23-7 going into the fourth quarter. And then Kyler Murray showed why he got paid all that money.
Proving it.
I don't think, if you're a Cardinals fan, I don't think you obviously don't want Kyler to have to do that in most games, but you're glad that he's showing that he can. And like you said, the way that it ended with Isaiah Simmons hitting Hunter Renfrow, super like hit stick, fumbling the ball. Again, I don't think it's on Hunter Renfrow. He didn't see Isaiah Simmons. He's going to the ground. Isaiah Simmons just comes out and nails it. Just absolutely textbook, a perfect hit on the football, and took a couple lucky bounces. The Cardinals picked it up and ran with it. I think it's a lot less a lot less like consequential that the Raiders lost, because the Raiders have shown that they can play decent football. They just have to figure out a way to close out these games. And like you said, Derek Carr didn't play bad. 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't do anything to lose the game. It was just Kyler Murray's just one of those guys that can win games by himself. And on, like you said, the holding was questionable. I also think the 2-point conversion catch by AJ Green was a little questionable. But I just don't think they could see enough. There, I thought there was an angle where you could kind of see the football hit the ground and move. If you were watching the end of it.
And during that, I think when Kyler, after the holding call on the Raiders, he extended a play and ran in for a touchdown to tie it. And I thought there was another questionable hold on the Cardinals. They didn't call it. So I don't know, there was a lot of questionable calls, but I mean, like, the Cardinals did what they did and win.
Yeah. There's holding on every play, especially on the offensive line. It just depends on how obvious it is.
Yeah.
I think the first touchdown where Kyler, or the first 2-point conversion where he ran like 82 yards in total and ran it in. Like that's ridiculous. Yeah, like there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that, and Kyler Murray is one of those guys. Yeah. I think I still don't think the Cardinals are in like that great of a football team. I still don't have them going super far, if at all, in the playoffs. I just think this was Kyler Murray being Kyler Murray. And yeah, that's about it. It was a fantastic game. It would have been the game of the week in most weeks, but
yeah, this week had some good ones.
Did you guys, if you're a Raiders fan, 0-2, are you guys worried or?
I think kind of what Nick said. Like, they've shown that they can like play well. Mm-hmm. They just haven't gotten over the hump. But you do have to remember you're in a division with the Chargers and the Chiefs, who are both.
It's the Broncos too, right?
Yeah, but the Broncos are.
They're 1-1.
They're 1-1. So like that division is going to be so tight. So you need every game. Yeah. So as a Raiders fan, like I'm not like freaking out or anything. Like we're fine. Like they're probably fine, but 0-2 start. is not ideal just because of the division that they're in. If they weren't in that division, I'd be like, nah, you guys are fine. Because what Nick said, they've shown ability to win. They just haven't closed out the game. But
yeah,
0-2 in a division with 4 potential playoff teams, it doesn't
crazy.
bode well for your playoff chances.
They've looked a lot better than Denver has against a lot better.
Exactly.
That's what I was gonna ask. Do you guys think Raiders or Broncos?
I think as of right now,
Raiders.
Raiders. I would agree.
I'll agree with you guys. Yep, I do think the Raiders have that edge.
What was the next one? Bucks Saints was the next game.
Bad game.
Really, the only thing that came out of that game was just the ongoing beef between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty crazy brawl they had. Also, I do want to mention something about Tom Brady. He does not look right. He just doesn't look like he wants to be on the field. And, when he's on the field, he was visibly frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's due to all of the off-the-field stuff that's been going on, retired, came out of retirement. Him and Giselle are going through relationships, problems and stuff. And he's 6 now? So, 45, 46. So, I mean, the dominance that he's been showing the last decades is kind of, he looks human. That's all I'm going to say. He looks human.
Yeah, I agree he's not playing good. But I also think with him not playing good, I think it just shows how good this Bucs roster is. Because if you watch the games, Brady doesn't have to do anything. The defense absolutely carries. the Bucs are obviously going to be a top team just because of that defense. I mean, they're shutting teams out. Brady, I don't know, what was his stat? 18 for 34, only 190 yards and a touchdown. Gets the job done, but the defense.
It's all the defense.
It's all the defense. They're not letting teams score.
How many interceptions did Jameis throw?
Oh, Jameis was
3 picks.
3 picks.
Yeah.
Did you see the interview? Who was it?
Devin
White.
Yeah.
Do you agree he should have said that about Jimmy Winston? I thought that was kind of out of pocket. And as a former teammate, it is hilarious, but I thought it was really disrespectful. As your former teammate, I don't know if I would ever say that about my former quarterback.
Leonard Fournette was eating the W.
On that live, and Chris Godwin
funny.
was like, "Why did you say that about Winston?" And it kind of got awkward.
Yeah. Winston and the Bucs are a love-hate relationship. He had his year where he was 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, and then he's had a weird career, but. Yeah, it was a little out of pocket, but
I agree.
it gets competitive,
Here's the thing about this game, right? Apart, like you said, apart from the fight, there wasn't really a whole lot that's happening. These two teams hate each other.
Yeah.
Okay, these two teams do not like each other at all. It's up there with some of the AFC North rivalries. These teams, especially recently, since Tom Brady's got to town, do not like or respect each other at all. So I'm not surprised about the shenanigans that went down that game. If you watch how the fight started, like you said, Tom Brady has just not looked like himself. Tom Brady was actually jawing with Marshawn Lattimore, right? And Leonard Fournette comes over to protect his quarterback, as you're supposed to do in a football team. So then Leonard Fournette and Marshawn Lattimore and then Tom Brady are getting into it. And Mike Evans, who already has a public hatred of Marshawn Lattimore, is just looking for a reason to shove him, and he sees one. So he just comes over and just trucks the guy, and then that's what started everything. Yeah. I think there's growing speculation that this will be Tom Brady's last year in the league.
I think
more than I think it has to be. He doesn't look like himself. And with all the off the field issues, 18 to 34, 190 yards and a touchdown. For most other quarterbacks would be decent. For Tom Brady, it's just objectively bad, despite what you say about his style of play and whatnot. And honestly, he probably should have had a couple passes intercepted, if we're being honest. But like you said, the Bucs defense is gonna win them games single-handedly against subpar quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, 3 picks, did not play well. Which is, I thought it was kind of shocking because he was playing well last year with the Saints before he tore his ACL. But that's the Jameis Winston that showed himself in Tampa Bay. But yeah, pretty boring game in all things considered, apart from the fight that happened.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Moving on to my game of the week was the Dolphins-Ravens game. That was just a fun game to watch.
That was a great game.
Dolphins won 42-38. Tua Tagovailoa, man. He just had a coming out party. Was it six touchdowns?
That's up.
469, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle looked like one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, if not the best wide receiver duo in the league. Both having over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson played phenomenal. They just really lost the game to their defense.
Lamar Jackson. Oof.
Yeah, 318 in the air
21
with
for
3
29
touchdowns.
and 120 yards.
119. Yeah, he played well. But, Nick, you said this earlier when we were doing our predictions podcast. Me and Zach were saying that we thought that Zach Wilson was going to have like this breakout, and you predicted Tua was going to have it, and he proved you right in this game. I mean, he had a phenomenal performance, I thought. I mean,
Yeah. Here's the thing about this game, right? Lamar Jackson played almost as good as you possibly could play as a quarterback. This game is absolutely not on Lamar Jackson or any of the Ravens offense. The thing with the Dolphins is that their front office, they know Tua's arm strength is not the greatest, but they've surrounded this, they've given him like skill position players that are yak machines. Okay? Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can catch the ball on a 5-yard slant route and take it to the house on any given play. They're that fast. And honestly, Tua's arm strength, like 469, 6 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Which I'm not. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, 6 touchdowns. Mitch Trubisky threw 6 touchdowns in the game, right? Like, I don't think that's anything to super write home about, but it's the way that he got those 6 touchdowns that I think was impressive to me. And the Dolphins were kind of like a boom or bust team. I think this game is going to be like a springboard for Miami. I think everyone in the AFC needs to watch out for this Dolphins team because they are absolutely firing on all cylinders offensively.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I never believed in Tua. I tell everyone that as a Pats fan, I think Tua is a terrible quarterback. And I mean, I don't want to say I'm wrong yet, but he's definitely proven himself right now. I mean, the team does look really good, but I don't know. I can't. I'm just shocked that Tua had this performance. I was but the only thing I'd be worried about. I mean, I know Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are really good, but if you saw the touchdowns, I mean, Tua doesn't have to make any good throws. They're wide open. All he has to do is put it up there. So I'm just afraid when teams start to tightly cover Hill and Waddle, will Tua be able to make the accurate throws? Because they're not even right on him. They're just Tyreek Hill's just 10 yards, no separation. He just has to put it somewhere where Tyreek Hill can catch the ball. That's the only thing that I noticed that I was kind of okay. I mean, that's any quarterback can make that throw.
yeah.
If these were unproven receivers, I would get what you were saying, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. They'll always
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have proven they can take short passes and turn them into 30-yard gains, right? So I feel like if team they're you said, they're going to play secondaries that won't give them quite frankly 15 yards of space for Tua to throw the ball into. But I feel like if they play a higher safety look, it's just going to open up more short passes, and they'll be able to move the ball that way. You saw it against the Patriots week 1. For the most part, the Dolphins' entire offense came off of short passes with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, etc. So I feel like they've shown that they're capable of doing that when they need to. But you better be able to keep up with the speed of these receivers, or else that's going to happen to you. And I feel like every NFL team has to be on high alert now that they just saw that performance.
Yeah. My question is, do you think that Mike McDaniel is going to unlock Tua's offensive capability? Because out of high school or out of college, obviously arm strength has always been kind of a question, but he's never really had a great coach. and like I feel like Mike McDaniel's starting to kind of tap into like that potential that got Tua drafted as highly as he did.
I don't think he can hurt it. I think it is definitely an upgrade from what he had. He's shown it wherever he's been. That he is an offensive-minded head coach. He schemes plays that gets deep shots down the field when needed. And I feel like the acquisition of Tyreek Hill, truly surrounding Tua with weapons that can win games single-handedly, has shown that he will be able to perform when he needs to. I'm not going to say that I've been proven right on Tua yet. It's one game against a average secondary, I would say. Average unproven secondary, but they got the Bills this week, so
Yeah,
that'll be a test.
All right, Nick. It's time to talk about the Colts.
I don't want to talk about this.
I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to hand it over to you.
All right. I had a feeling that this was going to happen really since the schedule came out. I was like, oh, week 1 against the Texans, we can't win week 1 games in Houston. I would not be surprised if we lose that game. Week 2 at Jacksonville, we can't win in Jacksonville no matter what. I think it's a curse, to be quite frankly, to be honest. But so I wasn't shocked they lost that game. Honestly, when I saw that Pittman, Alec Pierce, and Shaquille Leonard were all out, I was like, we're not winning this game. We're just losing. It's not that they lost. It's how they lost. It was just a carbon copy of week 18 last year. It was a carbon copy. Matt Ryan looked terrible. The offensive line couldn't open up holes for Jonathan Taylor. Their receivers couldn't catch anything. The defense did. I mean, Trevor Lawrence let's just be honest, he has not lived up to the hype so far. Unless he's playing us.
Yeah.
I think he has like a 118 career passer rating against us in 3 games now.
Yeah, he went 5 for 30, 235, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was surgical, right? He did everything that an NFL quarterback needed to do. This game was never close. From the first drive of the game, it was never close. And as soon as who caught the first touchdown? I think it was Christian Kirk. As soon as Christian Kirk caught that first touchdown, I was like, we're losing this game. We're not winning this game. And unlike the Bengals, I think it is massive panic time. As a Colts fan, I am full sending the panic button because these are the 2 worst teams we're playing all year.
Yeah.
The Titans, not the Titans, the Texans and the Jaguars. These are the 2 worst teams we're playing all year. And don't forget that they were down 17. No, they were down 17 against Houston last week. They were lucky to get a tie out of that game. They have their next 3 games are the Chiefs, Titans, and Broncos. It's you can't have a worse start, to be quite frankly. And if you look at the schedule, if you didn't like list the teams, if you didn't know what team was playing what schedule, and you were like, this team is going to tie to the Texans week 1, and they're going to lose to the Jaguars by 24 in week 2, get shut out, you would be like, oh, that's the Seahawks, or that's the Falcons, or that's the Giants, right? One of the Bears, like one of the worst teams in the league. No. It's a team that was 1 game away from making the playoffs and looked like a Super Bowl contender in week 16 of last year. We know what the Colts should be. We know the stars that they have. We know the front office that they have. They just have not been anywhere close to the hype. And quite frankly, it starts with Frank Reich, if I'm being honest. Every year, he just has not gotten this team ready to play, especially early. I do think that the Colts will go on a bit of a midseason run just because their schedule's a little bit easier after this slew of games that we have. And I think that they will just kind of right the ship a little bit. If there's any saving grace, it's that we play in the AFC South. The winner of that division might have 8 wins this year, if we're being honest. But, I mean, it's embarrassing, quite frankly. That's all I can really say is embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered pretty much everything. I mean, I think Frank Reich's time on the Colts has getting close to being over. Like you said, they were one game away from making it to the playoffs last year. Embarrassing loss to Jacksonville. Started this year off 0-2. Something has to change, and that's the coach. Honestly, low key, the Colts having a bad year could be a blessing in disguise.
I agree.
Because if you guys get like a CJ Stroud, a Bryce Young, the last time you guys have drafted a good quarterback was Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck, before he retired, was like,
Yeah.
he was really good. And you kind of shied away from like drafting a quarterback. And I think this year there's like 2 top guys, but there's like 3 to 4 dudes who could potentially make a difference in the first round this year. So I think the Colts, obviously, as a fan, you never want to lose games, but I think if they do end up like being one of the worst teams, like having a chance at least to get like a top quarterback, like you have to think, you got Quentin Nelson young, you got Jonathan Taylor still young, you got Pittman young, Pierce young, you add a young quarterback to that. I think the future looks better there than what you have with Matt Ryan. But yeah, it's really just whenever you get shut out by a team that's not great, always a tough pill to swallow for sure. One game that I just want to briefly note was the Jets and Browns game. Absolute collapse by the Browns. Absolute collapse by the Browns.
I didn't even see the end of the game. I watched the highlights. I was like, that's like insane way to lose.
Absolute collapse by the Browns. Garrett Wilson's coming out party. Congrats to him.
My preseason prediction for offensive rookie of the year. I just want to.
There you go. You're on week 2. Did you well? Week 2 did you real well. Other than the Colts, but like
it could have been better.
Take wise, you did good.
Yeah.
Wilson.
I said that Hutchinson would win defensive rookie of the year, and
I also said that.
He had like 3 sacks in the first half, so he did good there too. But yeah, I mean, as a Browns fan, I mean, you have to be just crushed after this loss.
I know, they could be 2-0 right now.
Which also brings me back to the Bengals. Every single team in the AFC North lost. The Bengals needed to capitalize on that, and they couldn't. But that's besides the point. But, I mean, Nick Chubb did his thing, obviously. Nick Chubb does Nick Chubb things. I didn't really watch the end of this game. I just kind of saw that they just crumbled. So I'm not really sure like what happened. I just know Garrett Wilson had a day. Joe Flacco had a day. The Browns did Browns things and collapsed.
I mean, yeah, you said it. The Browns browned, to be quite honest. And it's like, my family isn't like super huge Browns fans. They're more Bengals oriented because we just live closer to Cincinnati apart from me. But you want to, for me before this year, like I've always wanted to see the Browns succeed. Like I've always wanted them to have a competent franchise, and they just have not since the time I've been alive. But you think that they would like shut them out because it's the Jets. That's another thing. The Jets don't have a history of winning these types of games. And the Browns had, quite frankly, one of the more stunning collapses I've seen in the past few years. Like it's up there with the Falcons blowing the lead to the Cowboys. It might be worse considering it was at home with less than 2 minutes left against a bad team, quite frankly, in the Jets. But I mean, and these are the games that you have to win if you're the Browns without Deshaun Watson at the helm. Yeah. If you want to make an impact this year.
Yeah. These first, what was it, 6 games were supposed to be a cakewalk for him.
Yeah. You have to win these games if you're a Browns fan. You got to keep your head above water till Deshaun gets back. These types of games can make or break a season in the long run. So we'll see how big of an impact this game has come week 18 and when playoff seeding come out. But yeah, just a collapse.
Could have a big impact.
Ryan, you want to talk about the Pats?
I would love to talk about the Pats. So we dubbed up 17-14. I mean, a classic Patriots game. I mean, just like low scoring, defense does a job, and like we just run the clock out at the end. My view on the Pats is I believe we're a playoff team. I believe we'll be in the playoffs. I believe with Belichick as a coach, and I mean we don't have the best defense like players wise, but just the system Belichick creates, I think they'll get the job done. Where we're gonna keep winning these close games, like mediocre teams, and I can see us like beating some top teams, but like nothing like crazy. I don't think we're ever gonna like shoot out a team. Unless it's like a bad team. But the Steelers game, my biggest takeaway was just the O-line was like looked really good. I mean, Cole Strange, no one believed in him, but I guess he had a really well game. And then I mean, we just pounded the rock with Damian Harris, and the defense got the job done. I mean, wasn't anything like
Classic Trubisky game.
Yeah, classic Trubisky. It wasn't anything crazy.
Here's the thing with that. That game is a mid-off. Okay, it was a mid-off, right? You can say the Patriots defense is good. The Steelers offense is anemic. It doesn't matter who they play. We knew this coming into the year. Mitch Trubisky's not the guy. They have a bottom 5 O-line in the league. Najee Harris is their entire offense, and he got hurt last week. I saw this video where this guy called it the equivalent of a Big Ten football game in the NFL. That's what this was. And like, yeah, I think the Patriots are one of the better teams in terms of winning these close games, but there's a difference when it's a close game and it's like 28-24, and it's a close game when it's 13-10. If the game is close because the scoring is low, the game will be close throughout the entire game. There's no real like. I mean, you have to give the Patriots like their offensive line did play well. That's one of the bigger positives you can take away from a past fantasy game. That offensive line played really well against that front seven.
Without TJ Watt, by the way.
Yeah, without TJ Watt, but still, their front seven is still decent.
Yeah.
I still don't see the Patriots doing anything this year, respectfully. I think I said it in the preseason. I think they're one of two teams in the AFC that got worse as the offseason progressed. But I think the conference that they play in, the division that they play in with Buffalo and now Miami's asserting themselves. I just think it's going to be a bit too hard currently for the Patriots to make some noise. I'm just not a Mac Jones believer. I'm just not, right? I just don't see it. The Patriots are a team that could prove me wrong. If there's one organization in the NFL that I'm confident that will prove me wrong, it's the Patriots. But I just don't see it happening even after this game.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything. It was just we got the job done. I want to see week 3 how we play against the Ravens. So really, like,
that'll be a good gauge.
That'd be a good game. If we can beat the Ravens, then like my confidence will like boost. Like, it already is high, but like it'll boost it really high if we can pull that one off.
I mean, I think you guys covered pretty much everything for the Pats.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what Nick said because I'm on Nick's side, but it's besides the point. Last and final game, Thursday Night Football. Chargers Chiefs, absolute shootout.
Classic.
Herbert versus Mahomes, always a fun game. Mike Williams had a day. Thank you for that. Fantasy wise, still lost, but thank you. Eckler's been struggling, but I think he'll be all right.
Fantasy wise or like real life?
Real life.
Okay.
I mean, also fantasy wise because he's not consistent, like producing. But
he produced. He had
a little bit.
He had 20 points.
Really? Oh.
He had 9 catches, so it makes sense.
Yeah, he had 9 catches.
I do think what is really fun with this Chargers team is like even though Keenan Allen's out, like Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter have both been like really fun to watch. I feel like.
Yeah, I might be starting Josh Palmer this week in fantasy.
There you go.
We'll see. If Justin Herbert plays.
And on the Chiefs side, I mean, they played well. But I before I talk about the Chiefs, just Justin Herbert, he had what was it, a fractured rib? They said
it's crazy.
Fractured.
I think it was. I don't think the injury was as bad as it looked. Yeah. I think it's like cartilage, and he's day to day.
Yeah, it's not too serious, but he was in obvious pain towards the end of the game. Delivered a strike, played well. Full credit to him for playing, pushing through the injury and stuff. The only thing that kind of made me mad was people on Twitter were saying, like, giving him props for like losing to the Chiefs while hurt. When like people like so I literally saw somebody on Twitter said like why wasn't Joe Burrow playing on a torn ACL? And I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, it literally has is like leg gone. But I'm not gonna get in that debate today.
I think I put that in the group chat, but I was very
You
obviously
did.
kidding.
Yeah, you were kidding. But no, somebody on Twitter was.
Some people were being dead serious. I saw
Yeah,
that too.
they were being dead serious. But I mean, credit to Burrow or not Burrow. Credit to Herbert. I mean, playing through an injury.
That was legit. I mean,
Herbert's legit. There's no doubt about that. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and him and Mahomes is going to be a really fun matchup to watch for like.
For sure. I really hope to see the Chargers in the playoffs this year. I hope the coach doesn't ruin it again. I really want to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure. I think this game showed more about the Chiefs and the Chargers. Because there was question marks coming into the year with the loss of Tyreek Hill. How well will this Chiefs offense perform? I think through 2 games, they've answered all those questions. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. He will make things happen with anyone from any college, any background, any conference. Like this Chargers team is a top 5 team in the league, and the Chiefs came back from it was 17-7, and then Mahomes became Mahomes.
Yeah.
And they came back and won that game. The Justin Herbert thing. I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, he's phenomenal. There's not much more that you can say about Herbert. The thing is, I get it was like essentially garbage time, but he threw like I think if you watch the game, it was like a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 4, where he could have very easily scrambled, but he was in so much pain that he just threw it in the dirt. And on the very next play, he made what might be the throw of the year on that 4th down with over the outstretched arms of the Chiefs corner, right down to the 5-yard line. And then he converted on another 4th down to get the touchdown on that drive. I think it shows to the character of Justin Herbert. I think he's a double-edged sword. You win games with him and you lose games with him. But he is a transcendent talent at the quarterback position. I've been saying this since realistically last year. He is incredible. And yeah, that's about it. Both these teams are really good. I expect both these teams to be deep into the playoffs.
This very easily could be a playoff matchup.
For sure.
Yep, I agree.
They're going to play one more time
this
year as well. I'm looking forward to that.